Hello, everyone. It's the far right thug here, and I've just watched the budget. Well, it sounded good, didn't it? Rachel Reeves made that sound really good. She said she was going to throw money basically at the NHS and the public sector. Well, the private sector pays for the public sector. So, all these taxes that they're introducing, higher national insurance and everything else, one, that's going to get passed down to the customer, me and you. And if they can't pass it down to the customer, they're just going to shut up shop. If they can afford to get out of England, they'll go. If they can't afford to, they'll just close. So Labour have backed themselves into an incredible corner here because if this doesn't work, they will literally crash the economy. If the private sector isn't paying for the public sector, everything crashes. Everything. So they have to guarantee, they have to bring work in for the private sector. And they have to maintain small businesses and big businesses alike to keep afloat and to keep that revenue coming in for the public sector. So what you might start to notice is smaller companies going under fairly soon. Well, within the next couple of years. And then bigger companies going under and bigger. And then it will just suddenly crash. Everything will just come tumbling down. NHS staff and police and fire brigade and all that kind of public sector, they'll basically have to work for a much reduced rate or work for free. I mean, if the private sector isn't paying for the public sector, then no one's paying for the public sector. Okay? Don't forget, the government doesn't pay for anything. We do. When the government says they're spending X amount on anything, they're not. The government doesn't have any money. They have our taxes. And those taxes come from the private sector. So that everything's backwards. The private sector should have much higher wages than the public sector because the private sector pays for the public sector. Does that make sense? You don't have a think of the private sector as the managers of the company, and then think of the public sector as the workers of the company. You don't pay your workers more than the manager. Yeah? It just doesn't work because if if the person that's paying you is taking home less money than you, they're not going to do it. They're going to either go abroad or just say, I'm not running this company anymore. I'm not doing it. So let's see what happens because they've really backed themselves into a corner. Not to mention they've borrowed over £100 billion. 100 billion that we are now going to have to pay. That we're now going to have to pay it back, obviously, but you're going to have a higher interest rate on that. And over 100% of GDP has been spent. She made it sound really good. Damn.